Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hello, my name is Mardi Winder-Adams, and right now I am based in the northeast corner of Texas. That's not where I'm originally from, though, and I'm really honored to be here and to share my story today. This has been a long journey for me. I am 61 years old. I've traveled several countries. I've done different things in my life. And it's interesting, the older I get, the more I see how all these little things I did in the past that at the time seemed unrelated maybe to what I was doing have all sort of knit together to give me the skills and the understanding and the empathy and compassion for others that I think really helps me be effective in what I do now, which is working as a divorce coach, working primarily with women who are dealing with challenging divorce situations. Like I said, I'm now based in Northeast Texas, but that's not where I'm from. I originally was adopted actually in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I am Canadian. And my family, my dad was an RCMP officer, and my mom was just this amazing person who I have to tell you, I think she really sculpted who I am today. And people that know my mom all the time come up and say to me, "You remind me of your mom when you do that." And that makes me so proud. So both my sister and I were adopted and in Ottawa. My dad then moved. He was, like I said, RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So we moved. We went to Edmonton, Alberta, and my dad worked there. We grew up. We had a lovely childhood. We had summers camping and fishing and vacationing. Back in the good old days, we didn't have fancy trailers. We just had little tent trailers that went behind our cars, but we loved it. We went out. We were always outside. I grew up very fortunate. We had a farm in Manitoba, and so I would spend my summers at Riding Mountain National Park. Our farm actually bordered on there, riding horses, playing with the dogs, chasing cows, having a lot of fun. And my parents were very, very involved in my life and the life of my sister. And then from there, we moved to where my mom was actually born, which was Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. And we lived there for many, many years. I went through high school and my first year of college there. And at that time, I desperately wanted to be a veterinarian because I had grown up with so many animals, but that was not to be. I don't really know why this didn't happen, to be honest with you, but I decided to pursue a university degree. So I went to the University of Alberta and almost completed my Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, just missed it by one or two courses. I stopped going to school because I got a great job offer. And my parents weren't really excited about that, but that's what I did. And one thing I didn't say is my mom had cancer all the time. That's why we were adopted. She was not able to have children. And my mom actually passed away the first year I was in university. So that was really tough for me. And it kind of knocked me a little bit off my game. But my dad was great support. I continued on with my university, started working, and then my dad passed away very unexpectedly, also from cancer, unrelated to my mom's. It was something completely different, but or a different kind of cancer, I should say. And that really made me change my life and what I wanted to do. So, despite having a really good job, quit my job, went back to university and got a teaching degree. And I loved it. I worked with grade ones and two, the little ones, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I've got a real passion for not the kids that were doing really well in school, but the kids that were struggling. And so I went back to school and did my master's in curriculum instruction and special education. And at that point in time, I was working in Vancouver, in Surrey, which is just outside of Vancouver, Canada, and did a lot of behavior consulting. Then, lo and behold, I got married, and I thought I'd done everything right. I waited till I was 30, and it was a great marriage. There wasn't any abuse or anything horrible about it, but it just wasn't a good fit. It wasn't working really for either one of us, but it took us 5 years to figure that out. Went through a divorce that we didn't have kids. It should have been a fairly simple situation, and it ended up getting really challenging. And I was thinking at the time, there must be a better way. Now, this was 30 years ago. So really the only thing we did was we went and got an attorney and went to court. So that got me fascinated in the idea of conflict resolution and dealing with very difficult life situations better. So I became a mediator and did a lot of training on divorce mediation, family mediations, conflict resolution. And after my divorce, I met a fellow from the United States, and that's why I'm down here in Texas. Moved down here in 2002, worked as a domestic violence client advocate. So I worked with mostly women who were going through divorces or trying to leave abusive relationships. And that was a big eye opener for me about some of the challenges that women had, the financial insecurity, the societal pressure, a whole bunch of other things that come into that. Kept doing my mediation work, and lo and behold, decided, well, this isn't quite enough. I need to become a coach. So I did my ICF and BCC coaching certification and was working with executives and people in executive and leadership positions. And what I found was that a lot of their challenges, especially with interpersonal communication and conflict, was not primarily based out of their work relationships, but it was based because they were dealing with struggles at home. A lot of them were going through divorces or had just recently divorced or were dealing with challenging co-parenting. So I decided, well, if this is the way it's going to be, if the universe wants me to go back into the divorce area, what I want to make sure I do is be able to do what I do best, and that is to be the best professional I can be for my clients. So I got my divorce coaching certification, my divorce transition coaching certification, then completed my high conflict divorce coaching certification, and that is the long and convoluted story of how I got to where I am now. My second husband that I married when I moved down here to Texas in 2002, he had a massive stroke in 2011, in January of 2011, and so I kind of quit everything to become his caregiver, and that's why I was able to get this certification stuff done. And he passed away in 2017. And although that was a difficult transition, it also opened up the opportunities for me to really hone in and focus, study and learn, and be able to support my clients better. And that's what I'm doing now. And I love my job.
Wow, Mardi, what a life you've had. I
It
see.
was very,
See
I'm sorry, that felt so long that I was talking about it, but it's so funny how you see all these little things happening in your life. For a while, I worked on a brain injury unit, and then here I am dealing with, 25 years later, my husband has that stroke and has a lot of cognitive problems. So a lot of that training, I was able to help him at home. So it's funny how all these things in our life start to come together the older we get.
there's divine perfection in everything that happens in our lives. You're so right. So, what the inspiration behind becoming a divorce coach, especially for women, was there a particular incident, a client, something you saw that motivated you to go in this direction?
I've heard this said, Gertrude, before, and it sounds a little bit like a cliche, but when I when I was going through my divorce, I wish I had had somebody to be that person who walks with me step by step through the process. And when people were coming to me and saying, because they knew I was a mediator, they knew I've done family and divorce mediation, and then they come to me in a coaching session as an executive and leadership person and say, oh, by the way, I need some help preparing for my divorce mediation. It just kind of, again, it was that sense of I've got these two distinctive skills, I'm going to call them, or
Yes.
abilities. It just made sense to kind of marry them and go and get that divorce, the divorce certification, the coaching certifications to be able to provide that. And I've had so many amazing clients throughout the years, and every one of my clients, I just wish nothing but the best for them to get through divorce, because it can be absolutely overwhelming.
So, can you explain the difference between a lawyer, a divorce lawyer, and a divorce coach? What are the different things that you're offering your client?
Right. So that's an absolutely great question, because I get it all the time. So they're two completely separate professionals. Your divorce attorney or lawyer or barrister or solicitor, wherever in the world you may be listening to this, they may have different names, but they are going to represent you legally through the divorce process. So they're
Yeah.
concerned about what your family code is in your area, and what perhaps a spousal settlement, spousal support or alimony or child support. They deal with all of that. I see a divorce coach as the concierge for your divorce team or your group of divorce professionals. I am the
Yeah.
person, I meet with my clients on a regular basis. We help them get prepared. What questions do you want to ask your attorney? What do you need to do? What's the paperwork you need to get together? How can you talk to your spouse about, or your soon to be ex spouse, about a problem you're experiencing? How do you talk to the kids about what's going on? So
Mm.
it's a very distinct role. Some people describe it as sort of your divorce case manager, but I
Right.
don't see it like that. I see it as more your, like I said, your divorce concierge, because I am there to serve my clients with what they need and connecting them with the professionals that are going to be able to offer that service for them.
That's absolutely wonderful. So it kind of balances the two. So, what are the most common fears that women face when approaching divorce?
It's interesting, because I really think this depends on your age when you're going through a divorce. So I'm going to say the older you get, so the term gray divorces, you hear that all the time now. So that's typically
Yes.
people 50 and up that are divorcing. There's a
Hmm.
real concern, particularly for the woman, if she stayed at home and maybe has been responsible for taking care of the house and managing the kids and all of this critical, like mission critical work, but it's not recognized necessarily. If you've been out of the workplace for 20 years, there's a big gap on your resume. And a lot of women, I think the biggest fear, especially when they're older, is how are they going to reestablish themselves? How are they going to get a good job that's
Mm.
that's not an entry level position into the workplace? How are they going to support themselves? And even more importantly, how are they going to prepare for retirement, because they don't have 20 or 30 or 40 years in the workplace to be able to
Yeah.
build up that nest egg? So I think that's a big one. For the younger people, the younger women and men going through divorce, I think a big concern is their kids. How is the divorce going
Mm.
to impact their children? And so, when you have kids, I think that's always going to be your first concern is, how's this going to impact my children?
Yeah, yeah. So why is it so important to create an emotionally safe space during separation?
I really believe that people can go into divorce with the very best intentions to be amicable, to be civil, to be respectful, to do the process with dignity. But then something gets said, or a promise gets broken, or perhaps the person isn't being honest with you, or they do something funny with the money. That's always one of the big ones.
Yeah,
Account information goes missing. It can get really high conflict, or it can get really stressful and really high conflict fairly quickly for a lot of people. And so having that safe space where you can talk to somebody and know that it's confidential, and know that that person is going to work with you, not tell you what to do, it
yeah,
gives you that sense of power and control that maybe you don't feel you have when you're talking to your attorney or your financial planner or your soon to be ex, or even sometimes your family members are fairly insistent on telling you what you should be doing in your divorce. So
yes. It is challenging. You're getting all these different voices coming at you. So what are the patterns that you see in women who emerge stronger after divorce?
this is where this is where my heart goes when I see this, because I think society, wherever you live, I think there is still a stigma to some level attached to going through a divorce. And I think a lot of times the onus is put on the woman to fix the problem. It's your responsibility. Just apologize, forgive, make do. And I think it's important for women to understand that it's our right to have healthy, safe relationships where we feel strong and we feel confident, and we have, yes, empowered. Thank you, that's a great term. And so I see when women are able to go through the divorce process and feel supported and feel heard and feel that they are getting what they need to move forward, and then
Yes.
having that sense of, I get to be me, maybe for the first time in 20 or 30 or 40 years. If you want to have a red couch in your living room, you can have a red couch in your living room. You don't have to ask anybody or check with anybody. And that can be, or if you want to go on a trip, or you want to have a girls' weekend and rent an Airbnb and go to the beach. I mean, you have that freedom. And that's something that a lot of women don't even realize they haven't had sometimes for
Yes.
years. And just seeing them go, I did this, it's so powerful. And it's so
That is.
empowering for you if you're the woman doing that.
So tell us about your podcast, The D Shift. What stories are you hoping to tell?
The D shift it's a very eclectic mix of things. We have some divorce professionals. So there's some, people who are like certified divorce financial analysts or attorneys or divorce realtors. We have those professionals come in and give tips, strategies, and ideas. And we have a lot of people that work on uh,
Mhm.
mindset work. We've had some healers come on and talk about different modalities for healing and for releasing trauma. We've had a lot of people come on and talk about the idea of narcissistic abuse, or dealing
Oh,
with these high conflict families or high conflict relationships, and how you and your family can create the life you want to live. You don't have to hang on to that negativity. You can let it all go. So it's
yeah.
it's really kind of an eclectic podcast, but the whole goal is just to share all the possibilities that divorce is not the end. It's a transition point in your life, and you have the right to do whatever you want to do moving forward.
Yeah, it's a new chapter. It's the beginning of a new chapter in your life. I love that. So what's the biggest misconception about divorce that you would like to correct?
I think I kind of touched on it there in my earlier one of the earlier answers, and that
Mm,
is that divorce is the end. You know that if you go through a divorce, this is an end point in your life, and
yes.
it's a change, it's a pivot, it's a transition, but it is by no means the end. And
Yeah.
so many of the women I talk to, Gertrude, say, I have I've been at home for 30 years. I don't know how to use, I don't know how to use Zoom. I don't know how to do Google Office Suite software programs. I don't know how to
Yeah.
do this. And but look at all of the world of experience you have. You've run a house. You can run a household, you can run a company, you can run a business, right? You can. If you've managed kids, you are probably a really good project manager.
Yeah.
You have so much life experience, and it's not like you're stopping and starting again. It's you're taking all of that
Doing.
expertise, yeah, and all your wisdom. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I have this is a little bit off track, but I have a neighbor down the road. I live out in the country. And so we have people of all ages and from all locations. I have a very lovely neighbor who doesn't speak a lot of English. So I'm trying to learn Spanish. She's working with me on that. But she's in her 80s. And when I talk to her, she's never worked. She's never had a job, but she has
Mhm.
been, I mean, she's run a farm. She's helped her husband. He's passed away, but she's helped him. She's raised kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and she is so wise. Like I would like
Yeah.
to be able to bottle all her wisdom because she's so, and we don't recognize that wisdom that people carry within them. And I think that's the biggest misconception in divorce, is that somehow you're starting at ground zero once you go
Okay.
through the divorce. Yeah.
You have all these transferable skills. You're so right. So, how can women protect their identity and values during the divorce process?
Again, another really good question. And I think one of the big things is, number one, and this always throws clients when they start working with me, because I say to them,
Mm,
we're not going to talk about your divorce. What I want you to tell me about is, what do you want to be doing a year after your divorce?
yes.
Because once you get that picture of what you want to be doing, whether it's working or traveling or spending time with your grandkids, or running a daycare in your home, whatever you want to do, you
Mm,
can then start creating a real clear picture of what are your values and what
yes.
do you need to get out of this. Because I think the biggest mistake I see is women who settle in mediation,
Um,
or in the divorce litigation. They
yeah.
settle for something because their attorney tells them it's the right thing, or they don't even know what they want. So
Yeah.
when you get clear on that, I work with you. We can set up, how are you going to do the ask at the negotiation? What's your bottom level? What's the least you're going to accept? And what's kind of that, wow, if I could get that, I would be in a really good position. So we talk
Right.
about all of that kind of stuff, because once you're clear with what your values are and what your future is going to look like, then you can
Yeah.
make the right decisions to help position yourself to get there.
And I like the fact that you get women to focus on the future, because the present, as you're going through it, can be very unpleasant. It's what will it look like when I get to the other side of this challenge? If you put your energy on that's a really powerful space to be in. Now, I know you've written a book. Let's talk about your book a little bit. And what tools or exercises have you included in this book that women can use to find this clarity?
Well, thank you. Yes, I did. The book is called From I Do to I'm Done, A Woman's Guide for Divorce, for Preparing for Divorce. And what I tried to do was break each chapter down into the basics of what you're going to need to have organized when you go into your divorce. So there's one on how to tell your partner you would like to have a divorce. There's one on how to prepare for mediation, how to do a budget, how to hire the right attorney, what other team members may you need as part of your divorce team. And so it's really a step-by-step guide. There's a lot of reflective questions in there to help you really get clear, as we were just talking, on your values and what you want to see in the future. But also there's checklists. Do you have this done? There's a basic budget form for you to use. And I think that the feedback I've gotten anyhow is that the nice thing about the book is you don't have to read it from cover to cover. You just pick the chapter or the subchapter, the subsection in the chapter, what you need to look at, and you can go right there, take a look at it, and hopefully it's got some practical strategies in it. That was the whole goal, was to keep it real. It's not a sit down and read from cover to cover as a relaxing read. It's more of a how-to guide.
I love that, because a lot of times we get very emotional when we are going through divorce.
Right.
You're not thinking straight. It's all in the heart. And you're already bringing women back into their minds to strategize and know the right steps to take, right things to think about while they're navigating this unpleasant space. It's beautiful that you've put it in a book. I really love that.
Thank you.
So how do you handle clients who feel stuck in guilt or shame?
That is something I think that is where I think holding up a mirror for the client and saying, let's take a look back. So not in the present, but let's take a look back. If you were a fly on the wall in this relationship, what would you be noticing?
Yes.
And especially, would you be noticing maybe your spouse doesn't say a lot of nice things to you, or maybe they say really hateful and hurtful things to you, or maybe they just ignore you. I mean, there's many women that are in relationships where they are, as you said in your TEDx talk, which is what really struck me, they're invisible there. I mean, they do everything. They maintain the house, they take care of the kids, but there's no affection between the partner. It's just kind of a job that they're supposed to do. And so if you were to look back on this relationship and you were your own best friend giving you advice, what would you say as your own best friend? Would you say, yes, you should feel guilty about not being happy in that? Or would you say, I don't know how you put up with it for so long, and you have the right to enjoy life, to find, if you choose, a partner that's going to give you that respect and love and caring and joy that you deserve in life? Everybody has a right, I believe, to have those kind of things in their life. And getting stuck in guilt and blame and shame keeps you in that prison. You can't get out until you're able to let go of that and say, I can only control what I do. I did the best. And, it wasn't a sustainable relationship. And just kind of being a little analytical about it. But I think that's one of the best things we can do.
I do like taking women to talk to themselves like they're talking to their best friend. They say that we are so hard on ourselves, that inner voice, we say things to ourselves you would never say to anyone else.
Oh, yes.
And
it's
being
not
aware of that. Sorry.
No, I stepped all over you. I apologize.
No, just being aware of how you are being towards yourself. I think that awareness piece is really crucial as well.
Yeah. And I was going to say, most of us don't just say it, one time, like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said that. That was, a silly thing to say, or that was a mean thing. I shouldn't have said that. We say it over and over and over. And we'll go back. I don't know about you, but I've had times where I'm laying in bed and I think about something that I said to somebody like 5 or 6 years ago. And I think, why did I say that? That sounded so angry, or why didn't I put that in a better way? And then I have to think, why am I worried about this? This is 5 years ago, but we keep those negative messages in our minds.
Yeah, that is so true. So I'm going to end our interview with 2 last questions, which are a bit of a thought experiment. In the one, I'm going to teleport you back to that young woman who was going through her divorce. If you could go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be? What would you have wanted somebody to have said to you at that moment in time when you made the decision to leave?
I think number one, you are not responsible for creating a perfect relationship if the other person isn't willing to work on that as well. Number two is you have the option to react or respond when you're being provoked, and you also have the skills to know how to respond and not react. And then number three, this is interesting. I've never been asked something like this before. Number three, I think, would be you have the right to find, and it kind of like what I've already said, you have the right to find joy in your life. And this is a learning experience. So, what can you learn from this so that when you go forward, you're not recreating this pattern of behavior that didn't end up in a positive outcome?
I love that. It is a learning experience. Every relationship we have, we are learning something so that when you create the next relationship, the cycle doesn't repeat. That is so, so true. Last question is futuristic this time. I'm going to teleport you into the future, and you are going to go and have a conversation with a 90-year-old you. And she's sitting in her rocking chair. Maybe she's on a dance floor with science and technology. You're probably dancing somewhere. And you're surrounded by your family, your dogs, your cats, your children, your grandchildren, whoever is with you at the end. If I could teleport you into the future to meet this wise woman who has led you up until this point, who's made a difference to hundreds of women's lives, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
I would like to be able to say that I admire the life that she has led, and that she was willing to step out of her comfort zone, step out of her area where she felt the most secure, and try new things and just have fun and be authentically yourself and be true to who you are. And I think that would be a life well lived.
I absolutely love that. I love asking women that last question because a lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already in us. She is that quiet voice that prompts you to leave when you're not happy. She is that quiet voice that guides you to go left, go right, say yes, say no. But we second guess ourselves and we look outside of ourselves for answers and solutions all the time instead of going within and getting the answer. Now, I like to play with the energy of who I am becoming. So I actually have conversations with her. I am in conversation with the wise woman every single day. If I get stuck with something, I will go to sleep with a simple question like, so what is my next step? I don't normally get the answer straight away, but I will wake up the next morning sometimes. I'm in the shower and I have those light bulb moments where I know exactly what the next step is to execute. So thank you for listening to your promptings and your wise woman as she guides you in your life and helping other women to do the same. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. I really enjoyed this conversation.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to give you the tools, the knowledge that you need to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you've been listening to this podcast and you're in that situation, Here is a coach that can help you navigate this difficult space, or you might know another woman who's going through a challenge right now. Thank you so much, Mardi, for your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time,